Okay, let's get things started with this week's weekly reflection. Today is March 26th, a decent day, a rather sunny and humid day in Hong Kong. So similarly, I want to talk about my week. It's been about 10 days since I filmed this. So a lot of things has happened. I talked about the notion of mental and physical health. It's always been on my mind. And March is actually marks the 1 year anniversary of me arriving back in Hong Kong. So last year I arrived exactly around this time, not feeling adjusted, not feeling anything at ease. In particular, I've been feeling the same feeling in the past week or so. I'm not getting used to the humid weather, not liking the infrastructure. In fact, I wanted to be rather blunt here, with the intention of not to influence gosh, my behavior, but more in a way that hopefully could see in a logistic way, and not to really comment on things that's too sensitive at the same time. So in the past few weeks, I've been feeling the drag of working from home. That's one. Second is just the whole sort of social tension in Hong Kong. So I often said this to myself and my other acquaintances who might chat on a regular basis, that Hong Kong is no longer the Hong Kong that we used to know anymore. I say this with much despair and disappointment, that from a city-state that I used to adore and love, to a unfortunate, what I would call a dying city. I might talk about this in another video, but regarding the reasonings, I think housing and the talents leaving the city is two of the most important, certainly economy, right? Those two important aspects of one wanting to leave. You know, there are always other reasons for others to stay, but I find this place just no longer aligns with my goals and aspirations. And you know, if I may just if I may just add one more thing to one of the reasons I do not like here, and that's the idea of same race racism. We call it discrimination, but within the same race. Now we see this very often between the rich and the poor, and we also see this in terms of status. Okay, you know, I've always came back to Hong Kong every summer in the past 8 years, right? Flew back home, but you know, the whole identity thing that the Hong Kong people have is a tremendous, it's a thing for them. It's almost a pride that makes them feel more of a higher level than you are compared to the normal mainlanders. I must say this because I've experienced this not only, you know, I would say rather often I'd see this quote unquote pride, sensitivity in them, that they do not want to accustom themselves with the traditional mainlander Chinese, rather than they want to put themselves into the category of Hong Kongers. Now, I'm not saying I do not agree with them. I totally would if I were a Hong Konger myself. But I had a feeling this is worse than my time in North America, where I was discriminated against these white Americans or Canadians. I even had a better time talking to these so-called Caucasian Americans because they're more open-minded. Some of them are racist, but I've never met a huge amount of this discrimination in the US versus discrimination we as a family had experienced in Hong Kong. Now, with the opening of the border between mainland and China, we see these immeasurable amount of mainlanders immigrating to the Hong Kong region. Now, that's inevitable, obviously. I see it as a positive note as well as a negative note. We see that Hong Kong is losing its status, but this is dragging much into a rather sensitive topic, which I do not want to furthermore address. But all in all, the city has been a disappointment to me. And this is much more like a roller coaster ride where I had great expectations and I want to protect the city's legacy. To this point, I had this sort of fatherly disappointment, like, oh gosh, you have nowhere else to go. So, I want to say quite firmly with, let's say 70% or 80% certainty that Hong Kong's future, look, it's going to be bright under China's new set of rules and standards, but on itself, with regards to talents leaving the city, it's never going to be the same. So that's what I've been thinking about in the past week. For me, is to somehow, I obviously would not stay here. Thinking about how do I manage to not convince, honestly, everyone should have their own thoughts, but yes, I guess that's that. Anyways, my learnings. I've been thinking a lot about working from home and the idea of working in Asia and this sort of hardcore working hours. Once again, we go back to the idea of work-life balance, whether it's achievable or not. If I were to go to another country to start a new chapter, if that's going to work, I really am not much of a workaholic, though I had been before. To remind myself, I've held 3 part-time jobs. Well, it was one full-time job and 2 part-time jobs in one summer, and that was horrible, right? I think I had the period of time where I think that work is so important, money is so important, but then forgetting myself that one has to say enough at some point. So enough is, I think, one of the core of Stoic philosophy, that when to say enough, similarly to the Chinese philosophy as well, that you don't want to go over that limit. So yes, I think for the near future, at least in 1 or 2 years, it's not much of a, I rather take things slow and steady, and just work my way up. I know a lot of people wanting to get into big companies. I do too. But look, it's not everyone's ability to be able to even been accepted to a elite college and then a big 4 company, right? So yeah, and at the same time, I just want to remind myself of some physical or may I say inborn abilities, inborn something that you're not good at, due to the fact that I say birth. I want to skip this topic. Never mind. Um, um, yeah, I mean, just to try to just work for 5 days and then just to reflect on the weekends. I think there's someone who said that if one cannot reflect on their life, then if you're working like 6 days per week or even 7 days per week, you're doing the 997 thing, then you yourself is just going to kind of get stuck in this never-ending loop because you never get a chance to think through of your decisions and your results. So therefore, this sort of, I think this 5-day working and 2-day resting thing is really important. You really need to rest, and rest doesn't mean rest per se, but it means reflection. It means thinking about, hey, how can I do better? How can I be more productive, say, and how can I don't know. You need more. You basically work to live. I think that's the core message here. Yeah, so that's been kind of the troubling thoughts. Now, what's been putting me at ease is thinking about Stoic philosophy, that we perceive things, and the idea of life is opinion. It's always been in the back of my mind to say that, okay, this place sucks, but look, what are the things that we can do, or in terms of our thoughts, can change that behavior, at least the thought behavior. So the most important thing is to put these ideas to use. We know this already, so it's very hard, yes, because putting into this sort of, especially when it comes to philosophy and theory-wise, to put into use is very hard. But I'm glad that I'm very good at doing that. So I know, but in terms of other things, I'm really good at putting stuff into use. And in fact, this is one of my biggest strengths. I wanted to utilize this part of strength, the actionable steps, to perfect my life a bit. Okay, summer's coming. I think what needs to be done is to really try to balance out. You're stuck at home, and balancing out your health, your work, and really just time to relax. And honestly, when it comes to the relaxing topic, I mean, it's really, really interesting. And there's tons of books and psychologists and philosophers that has been talking about this idea that we in this era, we've been very much drained by our attention, and sometimes we call it mental diarrhea because we've consumed so much information in this information overload century. And then for me, I deleted all my social media accounts. I only access Instagram on my laptop here, but I still spend a lot of time browsing on YouTube, like literally as if I cannot stop. As a designer, I think that, wow, us designers really did tap into the human psychology of shit. But at the same time, I used to download Cold Turkey to help me to literally stop me from entering these time-consuming yet unvaluable social media sites. Now, one of my reasons of posting these Instagram posts was to help me to set off my personal branding. And what I strive for is to post one time a day without looking at too much. In fact, it is true that I only deleted my Instagram on my phone and only posted online, and I really don't access it anymore, except for a few other times. And I think this is another topic to address, and that's like, okay, I'm not doing too good in terms of Instagram, but I am doing quite well on some other platforms. Um, I think maybe not this year, not this month at least. Maybe YouTube thinking about other types of method to monetize posts or other social media feeds. And honestly, now this is not work, right? I'm thinking about other content creators who really did wanting to making new videos every week. That's a shit ton of job. I used to do YouTube subtitles for YouTube, so I know how much work only for a translator and only for a subtitle person to do. And that took me like 3 to 5 hours for a video 20 minutes long, and that's a pretty heavy workload, and imagine to hire a team to, well, in the beginning I wouldn't suppose that you will wanting to hire a team, then everything is on your own. You gotta shoot, cut, have subtitles, whether that's optional. I'm just trying to say that it's a lot of work. But yeah, I mean, seeing that short video is a trend, and looking into that, I am a designer with some sort of creative mind, or if I may, not to oversell myself, the idea of you could do some sort of short videos, but that's outside of your full-time job, only if you're willing. One of the biggest things I want to end here is to follow through with a traditional Chinese philosophy thought. And this philosophy is suggesting that we live to serve one goal, and that's to figure out, why are you here? Why are you here? What are you here to do? In fact, almost always there's only one thing that we're here to do. I've changed my career a few times back in college. I've been torn between careers. So if I were to apply that piece of philosophy in my life, I hadn't felt that I've had the opportunity to figure out, hey, what are you here to do? Now, I'm not trying to disagree with the ones who does not believe that these philosophies are bullshit. But I do believe that if we do have one goal in our life, as in you are determined that this particular set of jobs are for you to accomplish, then hey, I mean, it feels like I can get out of my bed every morning and say, hey, I have an aspirational goal and I can keep on going, which in some ways alleviate my own suffering. So, many of the things we dreamt for, making huge dollars, wow, I love that. But often in the beginning of the career, if you're not born from a rich family, then that means you require to work long hours. And I've seen people done that. I mean, so I don't know what I'm saying. Still going back to the idea of what are you became conscious in this world, yes, and what are you here to do? Are you here to help? Are you here to, are you here to design? Are you here to, I mean, a lot of things. Now, before entering, well, in the very beginning, in my design career, I wanted to help those who are disabled, and that's always been kind of like, oh wow, helping is cool. I get to help those who are not doing so well, who's not able to do things. And that seems like a pretty good deal. You know, I get to make money and I get to help others. You know, and that doesn't seem like much of an option in the designerly field, because that's as of this moment, I've seen these so-called helper designers in the research field. But that's in another video. I don't suppose that we should be talking about this in another moment. I went on for too long. But yes, been thinking about this. So yeah, I'm just gonna end the video here with a bit of awkwardness. So yeah, I'll see you next week.